Welcome to No Question About That. This is the weekend pod. I'm Ed with Wayne today. How's it going, Wayne?
I'm delighted, Ed, to be joining you. How are you?
Delighted. Wow. Not delicted, because he missed a easy ball to clear there, but we'll get onto him in a bit. Sorry. Sorry. You've been very busy. I see you podding all over the place. Talk of the Devils spin-off as well. United Unheard.
Yes.
New season coming.
No, so yeah. So I've increased my daily pods because I wanted to, or my pods to daily pods because I wanted to do just a little daily news segment in the morning. So that's on the Talking Devils feed. The United Unearthed thing is like, we've done the Lost Tapes.
Yeah.
And I want to do a feature series with it. So I've got a few things lined up with it. It's just going to take a long time producing it, really, because of the people that want to get involved with it. I'm not going to say too much about what it is, but people have been saying, does this compromise the Lost Tapes season 2? No, it doesn't. Don't worry, that's coming. I'm just working on the ideas for that as well. So, but yeah, that's going to be probably late 26. It's really is going to take a long time coming. So I know that I put it out there. I just wanted to make sure that I'd got all the handles and everything like that, because
very good.
There's a lot of new United media coming up, and United analysts and I don't know, United boot room or something pops up every day, doesn't it? I thought make sure that you get it. And
so many. When I first started doing United Rant back in 2002, started on Blogger, did about, I don't know, what did I do? A couple of years of that, and then had some things I had to deal with. Anyway, it went up to about 1 million unique readers a month. Yeah, I know. Hell of a lot. And because I was basically the first, right? Apart from the fanzines that were out there, this was one of the first online United-focused media, and I was writing every day and all of that kind of stuff. And then took about 6 months off for reasons. Came back and there were like 97 other blogs the same, and I never got anywhere near the traffic, And now that it's the barriers to entry of creating United media are so low, or creating media generally, whether it's podcast or YouTube or whatever, so low. There's just tons out there, and some really good stuff and some crap. Listeners can put this in whatever bucket they feel like. They're not shy about giving feedback. I know that.
No.
Well, one I am looking forward to, Steve Bartram, who worked at you must know him, right? He's started his United thing, and I think that could be good with Nick Story, who I've met previously. So, yeah, kind of hoping that will be a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, on to the game. United 1, Fulham 1. Deary me, this was not good. I was tweeting during the game the high camera angle they have at Fulham now, because the new Riverside stand, which you can't actually see on TV, but it kind of looks like this spaceship they've plonked on the Thames next to all the oldie worldy stuff around it. It's a bit weird, isn't it? But it gives you a really good view of the shape of Ruben Amorim's team, and it was like it took about 30 seconds to look like it was 2 in midfield versus 3 in midfield, as it always is with Ruben Amorim's teams, and I'm just like, oh god, this is going to be a hard slog. Mm-hmm. And it kind of was in the end, although I don't know what you thought. Opening half hour, United weren't bad. Created a few chances, had the attacking stuff looks nice when it comes together. It's just when it comes together.
That's fair. The one thing I will say about the camera angle, by the way, while we're talking about nerdy stuff, I watched the Everton game for that, just to see what it looks like on the eyes, and it's a nice televisual experience. Nice with Jimmy Garner to score as well.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the thing about Fulham's ground where there's parts of it that look like a bandstand by the beach. Do you know what I mean? The little bits that are in there, like you're on, I don't know, Margate Seafront or something like that. Not that I've ever been, but I imagine that's what it's like. Those old sort of bandstand things, they're like railed off in the corners. You think like there must be 97% asbestos in that stand.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
But yeah, so that part, yeah. The one thing I will say about the performance of the numerous things we're about to talk about is he talks about the shape. I'm going to talk about consistency probably more as a key point of topic to come out of this. There are different things that are there, but they follow the same kind of thing. So like you said, the nice attacking moves, and I would agree with that. Last season, I feel like we're following the same pattern for last season, but for different reasons. So last season, we would flash in games and it would look good, but they'd generally be individual highlights, and then it'd all fall apart after that, even if the individual was doing well to sort of galvanise the team. Now it's less individual, and in fact, if anything, it's the other way around, where the individual kind of gets exposed a little bit, and the teamwork looks pretty good. And I include Cunha in that. People will think when they listen or watch this, and they'll say, "Oh, well, Cunha's an individualist." Well, he is, but I think that the product we've seen of his cleverness is through good teamwork. It engineers good openings and things like that, and his ability to sort of anchor himself to that or attach himself to that is top class. So there's that element of it. But then it does drop into that worry and fatigue, and that this has been a feature of Amorim's reign, and I know this is probably one of the key elements that we were hoping would dissipate as time went on, but it hasn't really. At this moment in time, it's 2 games into the season, so you go, all right, do you know what I mean? You back off a little bit in terms of getting the criticism, because it's not, it's early season rust and everything like that, but you have to balance that against the caveat that is time is not a limitless resource, especially not for Ruben Amorim at this moment, because you can't afford too many results and performances like this. It wasn't catastrophic by any stretch of the imagination, and I know we both just talked about this. We're saying it's definitely not a case of feeling like it's not going right, or that we're getting on his back, or turning negative towards it. But it's more the case of he needs to start showing more. There are elements now which we thought you wouldn't hold him accountable for last season because of what he inherited. Now you kind of do. You go, all right, well, the selection's on him, the substitutes are on him, and could we have done better if he'd made different decisions? I think possibly the answer is yes today.
Yeah. I think it's fair to question him. I mean, so if you've got a 35% win rate as a United manager and even lower in the Premier League, of course people are going to question it. And we are only, 8 months into his time at United, so there's that, but 8 months is still a fair amount of time for a coach to imprint his system. I think it's the systemic pieces I am pretty worried about. I mean, we've obviously spent 200 million on new forwards. We haven't really seen them together yet. There are some issues around gelling there. I like the individuals a lot. Whether they'll work together is another question. We are seeing some elements, especially against Arsenal, we saw some elements of what you'd expect a Ruben Amorim team to look like, especially in those sort of wide areas where they try and create the overloads for the cutback or the third man runs. I like more of the pressing than I did last season, especially when Mason Mount's in the team. He is the one everyone follows. What I don't like are the balance in the fullbacks, right? So if it's Ahmad and Dorgu, they both want to push high and neither want to tuck in. So it doesn't help that midfield too, in midfield. And if it's Dalot, he does want to tuck in, but we obviously he has a aneurysm anytime he needs to defend and couldn't create anything for anything. The thing I really don't like is that 2 in midfield. It's almost always against 3.
Yeah.
Almost always. Almost every team in the Premier League is going to play 3 in there. And it means either Cunha needs to drop in, which he did in the second half. He changed it around to a bit more of a triangle in midfield and 2 up front. And so there's that. And that's why Amorim wants athletes, mega athletes in there. He doesn't have it. Right? Bruno will run, but you wouldn't call him a mega athlete. No. Casemiro can't last more than an hour. And he still cannot help himself with the blind ball round the corner to absolutely nobody. Ugarte will get around, but obviously the technical side of his game is pretty poor, really disappointingly poor. And he just doesn't believe in Kobbie Mainoo. Sorry, got to get that one right. Otherwise I'll get people giving me feedback on it. He just doesn't believe in him, and I think it's not because Kobbie won't run. He averages over 11 kilometres a game. It's about on par with Bruno, that one. It's because he's just not quick enough over those first 10 metres, so he doesn't cover enough space. And when you've got 2 versus 3, you need to cover more space. And that's the thing that worries me most. And it just got deeper and deeper and deeper, and all his substitutions were defensive, basically. weren't they? And the midfield balance goes off completely when Uarte's in there, and you can see why he wanted Carlos Baleba, because he is two players in one. He is that kind of physical, gets around, great athlete, really good ball carrier, so he can break lines and all of that. And I just don't see how that's going to change with this group of players, and we're going to spend the entire season looking at central midfield going, there's qualities each of them have, but a blend, I can't find a blend in that. So.
Yeah.
That's my general feeling, and it may be the undoing of Amorim. If you look at the next 8 games up to, I think it's the Spurs game just before the second international window, that'll be on a year. If we're still looking at losing 50% of our games and winning 30% of them, like, I don't want him gone at all. I like the bloke. I think there's a lot of charisma about him, and he's probably got some good ideas, but you can't have a year's worth of being a manager at Manchester United and it be a 30% win rate. So.
Yeah, I agree with you in a general sense, but I would think that he's got an incredible state of execution based on the fact that he's the first big appointment by the part ownership. So
and they won't want to just fire him willy-nilly. I get that, and I'd want to give him time too. I personally want to give him time, not that I have any say in this, obviously, but it is worrying.
I've been critical of the sackings in the past because under the parsimonious structures that we had, we sacked the manager in November with no intent to spend in January when we knew that we needed to do that. And we knew that we'd be spending big in the summer every time, and that happened every single time. So we were basically writing seasons off. I don't see that happening this time round, and we're going way off into talking about a possible change here. I'll pull it back in a second. But if we were talking about speculation over his future, I wouldn't be expecting to see that until well after the winter window would be gone, so February, March or something like that. And that does really depend on this win percentage being as low as it is and things not moving in the right direction. And it's not so much the midfield that bothers me because, well, it is, and I'll get to that in a moment, but it's more the goalkeeper, because the goalkeeper, again, not at fault today, but a better goalkeeper could have done better. And I think that when you have a goalkeeper and he looked so unconfident and vulnerable at corners today, so much so. I'm
watching corners like this, and that is not their Victor Gyökeres celebration. It's like, I can't watch. It's fucking horrendous.
Yeah, so much so that last week it's like, it's an Arsenal tactic, and now it's not a United vulnerability. Just as it was in the middle of last season when they scored a couple against us, and then the 3 or 4 games after, Spurs, Wolves became a vulnerability. And
everyone's going to do that until it's solved.
Exactly, and they alter their tactics. They modify in order to strike on our vulnerabilities, and that's what good teams do. Whereas we're still in a process where we're like trying to make the best of what we've got rather than exploiting the other teams at the moment, which is
one thought on the corners. Sorry to interrupt. It's not just the keeper. It's also the back post defending, whether it's Ahmad or Dorgu or Dalot. All of them missed it today. None of them were watching the runners around the back post, and so if the keeper can't get it, there's 2 men coming in late. Got to pick them up. I mean, it's a miracle we didn't concede today.
Yeah. Well, that's the goalkeeping error. I think if you've got a goalkeeper who is first of all vulnerable, but second of all making at least 1 error a game, that is catastrophic in terms of team building. So in terms of
Altay wears tights. I can't get on with it. Goalkeepers should not do it in August. You're not cold, mate.
Yeah, the old gloves and remember Snoods. The Sami and Nasri choice. Less said about his choices, the better, I guess. So
I'm not the cunt. You're the cunt. Sorry for swearing. I for children listening, do not say that word. It's very naughty, but yeah, that's what he said. And then he threatened to fight someone, didn't he, on Twitter? It was great.
Not an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. People are just not ready for the C-bombs being dropped. It's like the people be listening going, it was 1-1 against Fulham. Where's the C-bomb coming from? Yeah, so the goalkeeping situation, by the way, I'm saying, all right, so February, March, but it can escalate an issue to make it an emergency if he doesn't resolve that and the board above him. I reckon that they would give him the stay of execution because these are their decisions as well.
Yeah.
So So there's that. But I think that could escalate and expedite an issue with the managerial situation very, very quickly. Because
and it's just a problem with the team because, I mean, you can't trust the defending at corners. You have to adapt. Everyone else has adapt. You can't trust either keeper not to have a brain fart in the middle of a game and chuck one in on their own. It's got to drip into the back three, back five as well, who just start sitting a little deeper because they don't trust the keeper behind them. It is a real problem. The one thing I'd say about Altay is that I don't mind his passing at all. He's pretty crisp with it, and it is quick. He gets it out of his feet quickly and keeps the ball moving. So it's not a bad part of his game. He made a couple of decent saves today. I mean, I guess we've seen worse keepers at United. I'm not sure I can name too many.
Well,
but neither of them fill you with confidence. And now Ruben Amorim's basically stuck to his guns and dropped Onana now, right? I think he was on the bench today, so you've got to say he's been dropped. He's not building up his fitness, is he? And then, so what does that mean? Is Onana going to be off? We're going to keep him? Very expensive goalkeeper to have on the bench.
We
don't trust either of them. We've got this new guy coming in, by the looks of it, Sene Lamans. I've seen as much of him as anyone else has, which is YouTube comps,
Yeah.
He looks like a big fucker. Who knows? I don't know if he's any good. So it's a problem.
No, it is. I would say on who's first choice, I still think we'll wait that one out because I see where you're coming from. I think he'll dodge that in saying that he's working his way back in. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him start next week against Burnley. That's an honour I'm talking about here because I think...
Oh, Grimsby.
Yeah. My biggest thought there is if he is going, then maybe there'll be... Oh, sorry, if he's not first choice, then there'll be rumours of a bid coming in for him, which I wouldn't expect at this moment in time, but I think that's the way that it's going. Anyway, I wanted to get onto the point about midfield because you mentioned that and I felt like I was flippant and not dismissive of it, but I'm prioritising the goalkeeper as an element of concern there. But I do agree with where you're coming from with the midfield in terms of not so much that the system is an issue, it's that pretty much all of the individuals that we've got at the club are suited for a three. And all of their qualities are suited for a three, and this is just because it's a norm in football, right? So you've got that, but also their limitations are there. So if you look at Kobbie, we don't need to. I'm definitely not a fan of lumping in on the discourse on a player who's not playing when there's a lot of discourse on him for no reason whatsoever. So he's not had a chance really yet. And over the summer, there's been a lot of talk that he's been working on his conditioning. He can't fix his pace. He can't do anything about that. But that's a managerial issue to play him in deeper positions or to compensate from that with the players around him. And we have got some quick players in there. There are other issues that we've got, such as playing. Now we're having to play Fernandes in that deeper position. Maybe there's an issue to be switched around with Mbeumo and Bruno on the right-hand side instead, because I think, like last week, for example, this is just a quick example. People who've heard me talk about this elsewhere will know where I'm going. There's a goalkeeping error that cost us last week. As much as it was Yoro and Delit who could have cut out that cross today, and then eventually it looks bad on Bayindir as well. But the error started last week. It started with Fernandes faffing about when he shouldn't have been faffing about, and we can see the corner. This time round, the problem started with Dalot being in, like you said, an absent position. The attack started from that. All right, we're going forward.
Yeah, he miscontrols it, doesn't he? I mean,
so we're going forward 20 seconds. The cause he's not culpable for the goal being conceded, but the vulnerabilities of the team and the vulnerabilities of the individuals within the system are what caused both of the goals that we've conceded this season. So I'm looking at the midfield and I'm looking at those issues, and we're talking about Kobbie and saying, all right, what can't he do? And we all know the things that where he's pretty plain what Amorim wants him to do, what he can't do because of the physicality issues that he's got or limitations. But it brings me on to thinking about Ugarte in both of the games that we brought him on. How has that been a fit for him? I mean, you know what I mean? If you say, all right, not Kobbie, and I understand why not Kobbie, because all the reasons make sense, but then if you're picking Ugarte, in the sense that we were leading a game and we're going to close it out, I get that. but he's still in a 2. He's still not got the quality to keep hold of the ball. His quality is retrieving the ball and passing it on very quickly. We knew that when we signed him. It's not going to work in a 2. It wasn't working when we were chasing the game for an equaliser, and it doesn't work in this system when we're seeing a game out if he's one of the 2. So there's actually, as much as we can talk about, Casemiro's failing legs or Kobbie's questionable stamina and pace, there's even less of a role for Agate in this, and you might even argue Fernandes as well, because he's in there, and he's in there because of his undoubted contribution and quality, but it's just not the right fit for him.
Yeah, I mean, of all the midfielders we've got, I guess there's 4, right? Central midfield options.
Yeah.
Not only can I not find a blend between any 2 of the 4, that makes a lot of sense. I guess the one I worry least about is Bruno, just because of his real high quality, right? Now, in defensive transitions, it becomes a problem. He's stopped overplaying in those positions. He's obviously been told to be a bit more conservative, right? Not play the Hollywood ball straight away, sometimes slow it down, play with the rhythm. He can do that. He's not a register controlling midfielder, but his quality is so high that I don't think it's the biggest problem in there. And clearly Amorim has planned for him playing in that position all season, because he spent £120 million on 2 number 10s for his system, right? Yeah. So we're going to get it all season, love it or hate it. And the trade-off, of course, is Bruno is further away from goal, where he's going to cause the most damage. Another negative. And then on the others, Casemiro, if he plays it in this very, very controlled way and doesn't have to cover too much space, he's all right, except he gets rid of the ball like a hot potato. Not good for a trying to build a possession-based team, and his legs go at 50, 60 minutes. Uate's all over the place. I hate dismissing a player who's been with us for just over a year, but I can't see it. I cannot see him being a long-term solution in any system. And then Kobbie, the reason why there's so much discourse, of course, he didn't start the season. He was sort of in and out of the team last season, had an injury, didn't help him. The injury was either side of Amorim coming in. But the other thing is our eyes and our spidey senses, for all of us say, hey, he would be much better on the left side of a 3. And in fact, every single United midfielder we've got would perform better in a 3. Uate would have to do less work. Bruno Fernandes would be near a goal. Kobbie Mainoo could be the linking player, small spaces player that he's brilliant at. And the other reason why the Kobbie Mainoo debate is live is he's misprofiled by Amorim. He is not number 10 and he's not number 6, and those are the only 2 roles that are available for him in this system. He is a number 8 who would do brilliantly. Do you know who'd do brilliantly playing for? Pep over at City. Not I'm suggesting it, but he'd look perfect in that system. Or anyone Pep played a 2 in midfield yesterday when they lost. I wonder whether they'll play a 3 next week. But Amorim's just never going to do it. He's so tightly wed to his system, his formats, his playing style. And that's the thing that worries me. I don't feel like anything I'd seen as Sporting and have looked at and researched since, I don't feel like he's adapted anything.
No.
To a different league, a different opponents, different qualities. And that does worry me a little bit. I want to get hyperbolic about, hey, you need to sack the manager now, but something's got to change. You can't just have same game model, same problems. Let's just slot in some new attackers and it'll all be fixed, because it's definitely not been.
No, that's fair. One thing I will say about this, I have less of a concern about the adaptation, and that maybe that's because of a lot of the noise that has been coming out there is less about formation, more about system. And when you think about it from the point of view of the players that we have brought in comparison to the ones that are in the bomb squad, we still can't get rid of them. They're good players at playing in front of defences, and we didn't have a lot of that in terms of, you could argue that they weren't good behind defences either. The likes have gone, or at least consistent behind defences.
At least not consistently, yeah.
Yeah, Rashford, Garnacho and Sancho. So
yeah, profile a player, but you're right. Yeah, we should do better against teams in a low block. Should do with these players. Yeah.
But we haven't, and it's that's gone. Yep. He's gone. You know, so and what we've got now is a different profile of player to unlock different solutions in a different system. So that part of it, I'm not too bothered about. And I did hear a little bit of a rumble where they were talking about systems and everything like that. That it might have been Andy Mitten. I'm not going to put it to a name actually, even though I just did. I don't think it was Andy. They were talking about the manager, and it was basically a comment made along the lines of, well, he's actually, the first part of the process of coming in is telling the players that the system is so welded that he's not going to negotiate with that. So he's not going to make any compromises. He's not going to make concessions. So you have to get on board with that. But it doesn't mean that within the next 12 to 18 months that he won't experiment with the different systems or different formations within the play. You know what I mean? To try different things. So the jury's out on that for me, at least until I see evidence. You know what I mean? If he gets the boot or gets the bullet and he hasn't changed his system, then I'll retrospectively go back and say, oh, well, yeah, you were damn right with that.
The second half, he couldn't have dropped in, and Mbeumo and Sesko did move to more of a two up front. I don't think it's a fundamental change in the system, but it did add another body in there when Fulham started to overwhelm us with the transitions.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a massive fundamental change. And Amorim's always rejected this, by the way. He's like, it's not 4 at the back or 3 at the back. It's about principles. And, you know, there's some truth in that. The fundamental truth, though, is that United are almost always outmanned in there. There's just one more player. And so what's the adaptation to that? Are we just going to forever say that the solution to defensive problems is to drop back quicker? You know, the high press and then drop back, and it's not yet Ten Hag donut shape, although I do worry that it sometimes has the same impact.
Yeah. Well, the thing, the knock-on point from that is where you've got one less body, you should have one more body somewhere else. So you're talking about the fact that we do constantly look outnumbered in midfield. Well, we should be compensating that with overloads in different areas.
Wide areas, yeah.
And we do that sometimes, but not enough to make you think that, well, what we are compromising on. Basically, the overall point here is I want to make it the overall point of what I saw last week and what I saw this week in terms of the weaknesses of the team. I think you can carry a lot of this through a season, even knowing how glaring some of the areas are. Because you look at the big games last season, we played that two-man midfield with all the players that we've currently got, and it got by. And generally, a lot of our better performances were in those bigger games. So
Duarte and Mainoo,
they played their part.
Anfield, and were great.
Yep. So there is evidence, and what we want, right? What I've been saying for 6 months is like I want to see evidence of progress and things like that. Well, we've got evidence in those small bits. In the bigger games, those things work. So I don't think a midfield 2 will cost the manager his job. I think it might prohibit our chances of getting in the top 4. That's a different argument altogether. I think the goalkeeper thing might cost him his job if we don't resolve that. But that's a very difficult situation for him to handle because we've got a week. There's no obvious solution on the market. Lamans might be a great prospect, but he's not going to come in and be number 1. We've already seen with City, with Trafford, the dangers of putting so much pressure on a goalkeeper when we've already got 2 high profile.
That, by the way, is a hilarious situation. Sell Trafford, buy him back at a profit for Burnley, and then go for Donnarumma, who earns about, if you look at the equivalent, earns about 400 grand a week. And Paris Saint-Germain want a massive fee for a player with 1 year on the contract, left on his contract. Not only is it really dodgy, but also kind of hilarious. You spend upwards of 60, 70, 80 million on 2 goalkeepers in the summer. You can't play them both, Pep, although he'd probably like to try.
It's a very Pep Guardiola signing to buy someone, quickly realise he's made a mistake, and instead of coaching the situation, buy a replacement immediately. Did it with fullbacks. He did it with a goalkeeper before with Bravo and Hart and Edison. So he's done that before. He's got a track record for doing that. United can't do that, and that's their difficult situation. This window is that through no fault of Amorim's, unless he'd made it an emergency at the start of the window, but then people would have been criticised in other areas. And there still isn't a hugely obvious name on the market to say come in. You know, I mean, people talk about Martinez at Villa, but he's still not an obvious upgrade. He's not someone you would obviously put in and say he's not going to be erratic. His personality is not going to cost us. It could. So I feel for him in that, but I do still feel it's costly. Now, I feel that we were closer. We still feel closer than what the evidence is showing us. I don't know where I've got that from, because I was so low after the Europa League final, and there's certainly the evidence of the league form towards the back end of last season doesn't suggest anything that bases my optimism. And I wouldn't call it strong optimism. There's just something in there. Maybe it's the relative weakness of the league. It's something I've talked about before. We were a lot closer to Arsenal than I expected we would be, and they've spent a lot of money as well. And all right, still London branch and everything like that, but we were still closer to them, and we've been close, or we've beaten teams who are around the top end of the table as well. So I feel the criticisms that I've got are kind of like now will be what the manager does with the misprofiling of the players and stuff like that, because I think the Kobbie's a great example of, you've got a player who's got so much talent and a player who's there to be moulded, really. If you think about, and this is lazy to go back to the talented players that we've had, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's the most quick example to make. So we had Nicky Butt and we had Paul Scholes come in. Paul Scholes was playing as a number 10 when he first broke into the side. I think he played as an outright striker in many of the games in his first two seasons. People have definitely don't want to add fuel to the fire of anyone listening to us. Not a United fan who wants to detract from Paul Scholes, but for many of the first 5 years in charge, Scholes, when he was in the side, Scholes was often not used in the big games. It was Nicky Butt who was used in the big games, and it was only after 2001, even 2002, 2003, Scholes was playing as a second striker. That was the idea of buying Veron to play Scholes behind Van Nistelrooy. It was only really after that when Scholes settled back and he became a maestro in midfield. What I'm trying to say is that all-time greats, Zidane is another player who people think that this just didn't happen, but I can tell you from the experience of watching him, he played in 3 different positions in his time. He played as a holding midfielder. I think it was for Bordeaux, and he wasn't looking like he was going to be the world beater he became. Even when he played for Real Madrid and when he played for Juventus, less so at Juventus, he played in midfield 2 or midfield 3. But at Real Madrid, he kind of had his own position where he sort of moved and roamed and did what he did. He wasn't structured to the team. The point I'm making, and I'm not putting Kobbie in those names, but a good manager can find a way to mould a player, especially a manager who is as emphatic on roles for players in systems. You can't always have all the 11 players that you want. Especially,
that, unfortunately, is kind of what looks like is happening.
Well,
as in he wants very specific specialists for every position. Yeah,
he won't have that in the time that it's going to take him before the patience runs out. So it's less the adaptation to the league; it's more the adaptation to the not so much squad, but the ability he's got within the squad. Rather than it's going, all right, well, Ugarte does sit in a midfield too. So he's a more conventional central midfielder than what Mainoo is. So we'll just plump him in, because that decision, I'm not going to say it cost us last week. I'm not going to say it cost us this week, but it all contributes down the line. And I still can say that, all right, Mainoo might not have been the answer, but he's definitely a better answer to the question than what Ugarte was.
Well, I mean, coming back to my point about Mainoo would just look much better in a 3 because he'd be profiled right. I mean, the other thing that I think is, I guess not a tactical thing, not a technical thing. It's more of an identity thing, and this is your thing. But what does it say about a club if we? And I know we're not going to sell Kobbie, but it is a live question about his development within this system with this manager and what the future looks like for a manager who has such fixed views on what the profile of players would look like in each position. Like, what does it say about a club if we can't make it work for someone as talented as Kobbie Mainoo? Now, there are people say, hey, I don't think he's as good as you think he is. Fine, everyone's got an opinion. I think he should be a Champions League, international standard midfield. We know where he's brilliant. He's brilliant in those small spaces. He's brilliant at linking play with the quick 1-2s. He's devastating in forward areas where his ability to play in those tight spaces really unlocks stuff. Midfield 3, he's going to be great. But on a wider identity point, he's local. He's come through the academy. It says youth, courage, success on the inside of the shirt, for the love of God. Right? If he is not absolutely intrinsically tied up with what it means to be Manchester United, and if people don't get that, I kind of worry that they don't get it and they don't get the club. He's so intrinsic to everything. And this summer we've binned off Garnacho for reasons: system fit, can't work with the manager, social media. Pick your poison there. We can argue whether he's really an academy player or not because he's bought in. Rashford, most definitely an academy player. Again, reasons: system fit, off-field issues. He needs to move on, inconsistency, so on. Toby Collier's gone, again bought, but he was given an academy contract, so I think Tony Park would say he counts.
Definitely.
And all of that. So that's 3 gone this summer. Kobbie, we're unsure of his place in the team. It isn't going to be long. Tom Heaton I don't think he was on the bench today. It's not going to be long before that record goes this season, basically. And then you've got to question, does Amorim believe in this or not? Right? We haven't got any other youngsters from the academy about to be integrated, I don't think.
No.
I mean, there's lots of very talented 18-year-olds at the club, but, you know, are we going to count Chido? I guess we might have to at some point, although he's not got a sniff now and is unlikely to get much. So it's a kind of a wider point beyond just can you fit Kobbie in this team. It's like, what is the identity of this club, and does that mean anything to us or not?
Okay. I'll quickly talk on that just before. We've got to talk about the match, haven't we?
Yeah, we're 39 minutes into the pod and we haven't talked about the match much yet. But
very, very quick point on that is that, yes, that's a concern, but I would say that that's a generational shift. So, first of all, Obi counts because he played for the academy. So, as long as he played for the academy or you've played in the youth club, we still count as an academic product. So, and we've got a generation of extreme talent there from now the age of 14, as we've seen, age of 14 to 19. There's some incredible talent in there. I want to make a point again to reference the Ferguson era, but it's just the most obvious frame of reference. When we won the first league title in 93 under Ferguson, Ryan Giggs was the only regular youth team player in the team. And the overturning players, all right, we did rely on a few like Lee Martin and Mark Robbins, but there was probably the period between 90 and 92, so before those kids broke through, where you could have seen that record going. It didn't go, but it was very touch and go that it could have gone at some point there because it wasn't always obvious that every single game there was going to be a player available for it. So that's one point. The second point being that in order to affect that generational shift, you do sometimes have to prioritise on the needs of the first team. And all right, I'm the first person to bang the...
Totally understand that.
I bang the drum of the identity all the time and what's the risk of it. And I agree completely with your point that Mainoo, we talked last season about Garnacho, even before all the problems began, about can we work with him to get his qualities working. And I thought at some points it did look like it was working hard. So I think that within the players that we've got there, I think that there's enough for that record to keep going. However, if part of Amorim's process to get to where he needs to be quicker means the sacrificing of a record that is proud and is long-standing, but the record isn't who we are. It's the attitude that is what we are. The record will go someday, but as long as the attitude remains, and it's a proper attitude that's there, that when the record does eventually go, that it's not a reflection of the abandonment of that identity within the club.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, and in a sense, like I don't doubt that the club as a whole is prioritising youth development. They fell behind. I think everyone would say that. So much so that Darren Fletcher sent his kids over to the City Academy. I think Robin van Persie did as well. There's enough evidence that United deprioritised it. That changed. There's a lot of effort was put into all age groups, not just the academy, but below that too. And we're going to see the fruits of that in the next 3 years, let's say. I think there's an awful lot. And if they don't make it at United, they should have good careers. I mean, Ethan Wheatley yesterday scored a brilliant goal. I don't know whether you saw it. Just one example of a very good, talented player who I hope that loan works out for him, because he had a bad one at Walsall last year. But there's definitely talent there. We've got Darren Fletcher taking over the under-18s. There's the link with long history of United. We've got a new academy director coming in from Brentford who has got big shoes to fill in Nick Cox. And so I don't doubt as a whole the club now see this is important. And it's just strategically important for all clubs, right? So one, it's free players. I mean, it's not free. Club probably spends 10 million a year on the academy, but it's free-ish players into the first team, the pipeline there. You don't have to go buy them from elsewhere. But also you can, if they're good and you get rid of the general stink around the club, you also sell players for lots of money. And City and Liverpool and Chelsea have a fourth income stream by doing that, right? Not that should be the be-all and end-all. It's the round human, get them a good career, find a pipeline into the first team. Those are all priorities. But the financial aspect is not to be sniffed at either. So I think the club recognise that and see it. And I think overall, Ruben Amorim, on the other hand, I don't think he's just going to integrate young players for the sake of it. And I'm sure every manager would say the same thing. I haven't seen a lot of evidence that is necessarily what he wants to do. He did do it at Sporting. I don't know enough of the history of where all that each of the players came from at Sporting to say, hey, this was a blueprint, or whether he adapted his ideas or his ideas developed within that. He was at Braga before that and he was successful there, came into the Sporting. How much was him adapting to the players in the squad or him dipping into the Sporting pool of younger players to build his system? I'm not sure. There may be a bit of both. He's got to the point where he's got his first really mega job. And I don't see a lot of change from him. And I don't have a lot of faith that he's suddenly going to integrate younger players. I could be proven wrong on that one. We'll see. Yeah. And we started this with Kobbie. I'm stick my flagpole in Graham Souness style and say I'm a massive fan of Kobbie's. I think he'll have a brilliant career and I'm deeply worried about him with this manager. I don't see where the fit comes. And square that circle. I'm not sure how it gets squared.
By him coming in and making himself undroppable in whatever form. And that's a challenge for him. So it is, yeah. I want to talk about, just to segue into the game, one thing I was thinking about before kickoff was the human condition. I'm not generally a pessimist. I'm not one for omens. But I looked at it and we've won, last four we'd won quite late on there. Or at least the last three. Garnacho, Bruno and Martinez scored late winners. And we've got a history of doing it with Rooney and Ronaldo doing it down the years as well. And they've also got a history of scoring late winners against us. I think even we've had a couple of draws there that were late goals as well. So
we hadn't lost there, and we did lose today, but we hadn't lost there for 15 games or something mental.
No, exactly.
So I think Max Dowman was even a glint in the milkman's eye by the last time United lost at Craven Cottage.
That game, by the way, the one that we lost, 2009, was the one where Scholes and Rooney both got sent off. And that led into the Villa game where Makeda scored. So if you want to feel old, that's how long it was since we last lost there. But talk about the human condition made me think about that quite a lot. My brain went straight back there when Bruno was knocked by the referee. And it was subject to a lot of reaction afterwards. That shouldn't have put him off. And I thought, right, I understand where, everyone else, all these professionals that talk about it are saying, he shouldn't have put him off to the point where he missed a penalty. And it's a weak excuse, I guess. But I'm thinking of, if you're just stood, right, you're concentrating on something, in one of the most high-profile situations in a game of football, especially United, especially when you're a player like Bruno Fernandes, when there is an established narrative that people want him to fail. I mean, there's no discounting that, and he lives with that, and he knows that, and it's
quite a few United fans seem to as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he's aware of that. He's aware of all that. So he's carrying that narrative around with him. So you're preparing in the best way that you can. And I'm just talking from a human level. I'm not talking about the referee barged him or whatever, and he had to have an argument like Bruno does. I'm talking about you just stood trying to prepare for something, and unexpectedly someone knocks you and knocks your body. Your body can get a shock that takes actually a little while to calm down, and it brings an anxiety on and stuff like that. I'm not saying that. I'm not giving him an excuse for that. I'm just saying I thought of that in that moment, and I thought this is probably going to cost him because his brain's gone somewhere else.
I think you're right.
You've also got a physiological reaction to it, and people will listen to this and say you're being silly. I'm just saying, imagine being stood still in any scenario, and you're not expecting someone to bang into you, and they get you on your blind side, and they do, and you're meant to be concentrating.
I think in all sport, you players of whatever kind of sport have to reset at those pivotal moments. You know, the batsman who sees someone in the crowd moving just steps away, takes a breath. The false start in the 100 meters. Someone shouts at the tennis, and so they reset before they serve again. Right, just compose yourself, go again. And Bruno did not. He got too wrapped up with the argument. I don't know whether that made him angry and so he blasted it over, but I kind of suspect it did.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like it, didn't it? I mean, I haven't actually seen the interviews after the game in which he was asked about it. I wonder whether he himself would admit he lost focus a little bit at that point. Very stupid thing to lose focus about as well, because it wasn't even the keeper causing him problems, just an accidental bump into the ref.
No, but that's what I'm talking about, of just being stood anywhere and someone banging into you, and your sort of physical reaction to that, and you're not always in control of what that physical, your emotional reaction when you go, oh, blah, 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 or oh, I'm angry. Because you could tell, if you were watching that, Neville only reacted to this on the replays, but I saw it happen live, and I was watching it, and I was like, he's waiting to argue with the referee, but the referee didn't mean to do it. But you couldn't have known that. So you know what Bruno's default reaction is? It is to argue and ask for the cause of something. The referee's not going to say, oh, I didn't mean to bang into you, because he doesn't actually understand what's gone on. He doesn't understand why Bruno's annoyed. So all that moment, and also you've got that kind of if someone knocks into you and say your adrenaline changes, then that's your focus. Your focus is to calm down. Like you said, he's probably made a decision on how to take that kick. He's switched the decision, and he's thrashed it. I'm not making an excuse for him. I just think that that's a human thing. And the only other time I remember him missing a penalty was against Villa at the Stretford end. Exactly the same kind of penalty. Martinez was winding him up then, and it was the last minute of a game when we just conceded in the last minute as well, or we conceded 5 minutes before it when we were drawing 0-0, and they'd scored. I'm sure that's how it worked out. And then we got the penalty in the last minute, and he missed. So those kind of similar scenarios are there. But yeah, I mean, I didn't think he was great today, owing to the system, but he wasn't. That's not where we didn't win the game.
No, either. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, yeah, I know. We haven't barely talked about the game. By the way, it's a penalty. It's a penalty under any framing of the laws. Yeah. He's rugby tackled him, dragged him down. I don't know why. I was watching the NBC coverage over here. Stephen Warnock, ex-Liverpool player Stephen Warnock, was absolutely adamant that it wasn't a penalty. And then after Euro scored, or it's not been given to him, it was like, oh, that's a clear push on Bassi. I'm like, talk about double standards, mate. Come on. Anyway, yeah, Bruno sent his penalty into the Thames. I mean, I know it was at the Hammersmith Road end, but pretty high. United had problems all day building up from the back into midfield, into the front three. Yeah. We only create 10 shots as a result. It's 22 against Arsenal, although a couple of decent chances meant the XG was a bit higher today, if we care about that. I thought we saw a lot of similar problems, both on the attacking side of the build-up and then the defensive transitions as the game wore on and the changes happened. It got worse and worse at that, and could have lost, honestly, as a result of that. And so it's not, I mean, that's a very quick summary of the game, but I thought that was not awesome. It looked very much like the end of last season, just swapped a few players out, but I didn't see much difference there, and that that is a little worrying.
Yeah.
Again, second game of the season. He hasn't got everyone fully fit and up to speed yet. He's got to, at some point, integrate Benjamin Sesko from the beginning. As I understood it, Sesko had a pretty full pre-season, so he should be fit.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Amorim doesn't think he is, and that's the reason why. And we've got the game against Grimsby in midweek. Maybe he'll play that one.
I don't know. I again, we're not seeing the post-match reaction here, so it was just something I was thinking about before the Arsenal game when I saw the team and Mount started, and again today. I think he likes the way that system operates in terms of, or he wants to see how it operates in terms of the rotation. I know Cunha generally stays further forward and Bruno comes in centrally sometimes. But generally speaking, if you've got those two and you've got Mount and Bruno, your 4 players who rotate, and what Bruno and Mount do really well is they fill in. And Bruno does this even though I've just sort of cast aspersions on his discipline with that, but he generally does drop into good spaces sometimes. So I think what we saw last week, the positive signs of what we saw, was between those 4 players. Whether or not it came in combinations between those 4 players or any combination of those 4 players, it generally came from that. And I think he wanted to see how that went again today, considering the way that we lost the game was an individual error, and there was a lot of promise in the way that we played. So I can understand that. What did surprise me is starting Ahmad, even though I would say, all right, favour the attacking side all the time. I would have thought, no, start with Dalot because it's an away game. Or you would maybe expect Mazraoui to play in that one. I don't know why. But we talk about the way that system moves as well. Shaw was playing, and maybe this is their work, what they were doing for Fulham, but I felt like Shaw was playing a lot of time quite left, and Dogu was pushing up, so it was almost at times 4-4-2. So it was interesting to see all that, but we started really well, and I think that those elements I just talked about with the 4 players really did help us in that first sort of 25 minutes, but we really needed a goal because I think confidence and momentum is going to do wonders for. It's either way, it's going to massively impact this Amorim transition or this 2 or 3 month period. Is going to be a massive impact on it. So you've seen today it was kind of flagging a goal early on from Cunha with that really good football that we've been playing, and this would have been a very different kind of game.
I think so, yeah.
You can see the way that this team is sort of flagging when he sort of like loses his confidence a bit, and it's like then it kind of goes back to, well, we'll rely on the individuals, and then that's easier for other teams to handle because they just close off individuals, and I think we've become less of a collection at that the longer the games go on.
That's true, because it's not identikit changes, is it? I mean, as we've talked about, he likes these profiles of players for certain roles and certain very detailed instructions that he gives, and when it changes out, the profile of the player changes and it doesn't seem to work as well. What we're looking for, what I'm looking for, is those connections between Shaw, Dorgu and Cunha and Yoro, Ahmad and Mbumo, or whatever balance it is down the right. Because that's where a lot of the build-up and the overloads happen in this Amorim system. And sometimes it works, but it's not consistent for sure right now. But I'm looking for that. It was good against Arsenal. And then coming back to the Kobbie, one of the things they were asking him to do in some of those pre-season games is to hit the switch, right? So to switch it from right to left or left to right, depending on the balance of play and where the overloads are, right? And that's another big feature of Amorim Sporting, that they would switch play quickly because so much of the build-up happens in those wide areas.
Yeah.
That's on Bruno to do, I guess, in this system. And, his connection with Mount is interesting. It's just he sometimes wanders out of that very narrow, disciplined position in midfield, as you'd expect, right?
Yeah.
To find the half spaces, to find the space, which is in between the lines. And then we look vulnerable on transitions and did increasingly as the game went on today.
Yeah. That's the risk that you carry when you've got, first of all, a player like that in your team, but also when he's on the pitch and he's trying to win the game for you. Having said that, we scored a goal. I did think it was a foul.
From a corner?
I thought it was a foul. Especially
it would have been on the very light side. I don't know. My impression of the first 2 game weeks is that they coming down hard on holding.
Yeah.
And not so much on pushing. That's just I don't know. I don't have any data to back that impression up, but I kind of feel like that's what they're saying, the refs, although they didn't get it quite right with William Saliba trying to undress Mason Mount.
Yeah.
I mean, like, at least take him on a date first. Jesus.
Well, that's on what I'm basing that today, thinking that, we got the wrong end of it last week and we got the right end of it this week. Like you said, it was not a lot in it. Like I didn't think there was a lot in it last week as well. I still thought the goalkeeper should have been better. And maybe, Fulham should have been stronger this time round as well. But we got our bit of luck there. And you want again, I'm talking about momentum and confidence, you want then to be able to kick on. But I think because of the way that the goal arrived, like just after the hour or just around the hour, then that's the time that you make the changes, and the manager's looking, he's got the itchy finger, you know what I mean? He's gone too early with the Agate one, not just seen. I get where he's coming from with Casemiro, but this is what I'm talking about when you're looking at players and he's profiling the players, and you might well be right that Casemiro doesn't have the legs to carry it on. But like last week, I'm thinking when he made that change, he might not have the legs, but is a legless Casemiro still better than Agate in this situation when, considering we've got one game a week?
Whatever former legless you want to talk about, Casemiro will still be better than Agate.
Well, I will say as well, he looks a lot trimmer and a lot leaner, Casemiro, so he's taken that seriously. And I think this is the thing, not against a bang on the main who've done so much, but when you look at players who are doing the things that you're asking of them, especially when you've got a bomb squad for players who don't do what you're asking of them, it's only fair that they get the chance to sort of prove themselves. And Casemiro, he's in there and he's conditioned himself well and he's played well. I just think maybe when we got the initiative today, or maybe when we had the initiative last week, the manager's sort of itchy trigger finger to make that change has derailed the momentum of what we had a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, that's 58 minutes of analysing the fuck out of not the game, but the general situation. So we have a game against Grimsby in midweek. I don't know about you, but I haven't watched the first few weeks of League One. I think they're in.
No, but I do have some relevant statistical information for you.
Yeah.
In the head-to-head games that we've had with Grimsby, we've won one more game than them ever.
How many is that?
I think it's 32. And
that many?
It might even be a little bit more. I feel like we're on 16 wins and they're on 15. And
wow.
There's got to be some draws.
Who knew this was such a rivalry?
No, exactly. And the goals for and against are exactly the same, Ed. So this is a big historical rivalry about to happen on Wednesday night. When I was talking about this, United had drawn Grimsby, and I posted a tweet, and a City fan made a comment. One of the YouTubers, I think he quoted me going, "Oh, look how far United have fallen. They've got a cup run with Grimsby." So I had to point out, actually, the last time we played Grimsby was in 1948, and City have played Grimsby many times since 1948 in the league. In fact, in the 90s, Grimsby versus Manchester City was as regular as the Manchester derby. So, but yeah, no, there is a story.
I don't understand, Wayne. It's not. City were founded in 2008. What are you talking about?
No, there were a time of Peter Swales and Mike Summerby, names that City fans might not know, but these names did exist. Franny Lee and all that. Paul Dickov back in the day. Sean Goto, these were players who would have played against Grimsby. Anyway, so...
What is Sean Goto's record against Grimsby? Look it up quick. It's probably good.
It probably is. Feed the goal, and he scored at those levels. He scored against us, so I shouldn't knock him too much. And also, former United player Sean Goto, and a very nice guy as well. So we're not mocking Sean, we're mocking City and their record against Grimsby. However, we're not in a position to show off, because if Grimsby beat us, then they've tied the historical record, and that would be...
Can't have
that. Well,
it was one thing Liverpool doing it last year on a number of titles,
but Grimsby's
head-to-head being better than ours can't accept that. Yeah. What kind of side are we going to play? I mean, there's a fair few players probably need some game time. Harry Maguire, Nusa Mazraoui, who else? Kobbie, Benjamin Sesko.
Aidan Heaven, it'd be good to see.
Aidan Heaven could do with some games. Yeah. Beyond that, it's a bit thin, actually. Like, who would really need some game time? I mean, guess Uarte might need a start. Bruno plays every game, but will they give him a rest?
He'll get a rest, surely, on Wednesday.
Sure. You'd imagine so. He does. I don't know. His record of playing him in cup competitions is pretty consistent.
Yeah. I don't know. I do think it'll be a rotational side. I think you can probably afford to get away with it. This is an interesting one, though, in terms of you've got 4 bomb squad members, and there are a lot of kids who deserve a chance to be in the squad, even if it's like a leap too early for them. Do you know what I mean? It feels like they're in the next squad down in terms of like they get a chance. So you probably see like a lot of in between, like so.
You don't want to integrate 14-year-old JJ Gabriel into the side yet?
Yeah, well, it'd keep the record going, wouldn't it?
Oh dear, it was funny. I mean, look, he does look a brilliant player, but let's just let him develop at his own pace. 14 years old, he's still growing. He's going to probably go through that period where it's really awkward because he hasn't grown into his body, and sometimes kids at that age, as brilliant as they can be, have to relearn skills as they grow.
Oh yeah. I mean, people forget this. Not that I'm a Liverpool specialist by any means, but Steven Gerrard's first 3 years of his career, if anyone has any inclination to go back and do any research on him, I remember it because I was there at the time. He would have back issues. He was constantly out of the side. He was having growth spurts, and he was awkward in the way that he was playing. And he was constantly injured and having these like sort of back problems because he was developing into a big lad. And like you said, and he was changing as a player all the time as a result, for the better, of course. But like you said, JJ is the thing about him is he looks phenomenally comfortable. And that, my keyword with any kid is temperament rather than talent, because you can see the way that they fit in, and he does look like he fits in. Like, so he's playing in the under 18s. He's 2 age brackets above.
Inside Kai Rooney.
Can you remember the guy who had a Twitter account that was Kai Rooney? And it was like
I do remember that one. Yeah,
it was a Shrek picture or something.
Yeah,
not very kind, but it made out like he was Kai, like a baby Kai or something. This is for the 2009 Twitter heads. This, but yeah.
Well, hey, random Twitter accounts make a comeback. Who knew Indy Callier was, a transfer guru and not just making shit up?
Yeah, that was
we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting on Wednesday. Been a while since United have been in the second round of the League Cup. Last time we didn't have any European football. I couldn't tell you exactly what this team will look like. I mean, if you were predicting 11 now, it could be.
Can you remember the last time we were in?
Would that been Van Gaal, Milton Keynes, 3-0 or whatever it was? I can't remember what it was now.
4-0.
4-0.
4-0, yeah.
4-0, and he sold like 15 players the day afterwards. I'm exaggerating there, but it felt like it, didn't it? It was the end of a few careers there.
Well...
All right, Andre Onana starting in goal against Grimsby, 1 under the bar, lets it go through his hands. Grimsby 1, Manchester United 0. Deary me. All right, Wayne, well, I guess we'll call it quits there. Everyone who's listening, check out Wayne's many things. Where are you? You're on Substack, Twitter, Blue Sky, various podcasts, YouTube, and so on.
Yes, I am. Wayne S. Barton is usually where you can find me.
All right. I'm at NQAT Pod almost everywhere. You can sign up to my Substack if you like. You can catch the extra shows at patreon.com/NQAT Pod if you like doing that as well, or on the Apple Podcast feed. Thank you very much for your support. And if you do that, you won't get adverts of me flogging mental health services or payment solutions or what else have I done? Car parts. Not yet done the male shaving and grooming things. I'm going to give that one to Dan because he has no shame. Whereas I was deeply embarrassed last time I had to do that. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks a lot. Bye now.